Let me ask you this: where does that rank for you in terms of greatest NCAA tournament games you've ever seen, greatest college basketball games you've ever seen? Like, where does that rank in the pantheon of great games?
I mean, it might be two. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. In terms of the actual game, again, I think it's top three. I mean, Villanova, Carolina is obviously one for me. I don't know how it couldn't be, being that it was the national title game and that play with that crowd. Again, the one thing that was missing here was the atmosphere. It might have been better on TV in a way for you guys.
You couldn't tell on TV.
Right. See, you could tell in the arena. You just kind of, again, you're looking around. I'm trying to find Bryce Drew. Early. I'm trying to find whoever to look for, and I can't even find the people. I can't even find fans because they're all mixed among these damn cardboard cutouts. Again, the game itself, I think, was top three probably of all time I've been to. I don't know how it wouldn't be. You had scoring. You had the Cinderella story. You had the team, fighting for perfection. You had every storyline. You had the setup of the championship game. I'm not going to hide it. I wanted Gonzaga Baylor. I didn't want UCLA Baylor, to be honest. So it worked out perfect. You have this unbelievable game to get to what could be a historic game tomorrow night. So it was perfect. It was what the tournament needed too, Rob, because the tournament hadn't had one of these. It had good games, but it hadn't had an epic game. And to have that epic game at that moment when everybody's watching, let's face it, a lot of casual fans aren't watching throughout the tournament. My wife was watching last night. She didn't watch every game of the tournament. She picked and choose. She watched a few here and there. But my wife and daughter both watched that entire game. At least I think they did. And that's where, again, it's one of those historic moments that people will never forget. Because, like you said, because of the shot, but the game leading up to the shot was equally as entertaining and dramatic.
That's the thing about it for me is, UCLA scored 1.33 points per possession and lost in overtime. We had an opportunity to win at the buzzer in the final seconds of regulation. We had a game-tying bucket with 3 seconds left, and then an answer to win the game with at the buzzer of overtime. But it was, for me, so I think I would probably rank it as the greatest game that I've ever seen, because I just thought that the actual game itself, like throughout the finish of UCLA North Carolina was better.
Yes.
I thought that the actual game itself, like that, neither team was ever ahead by more than 7 points.
Right.
There was never a situation where anybody scored more than 6 straight points by themselves. I think that they were tied for I think it was at 11 minutes of the 45 minutes of the game. There were 20 different lead changes. It just, everything about the way that actual game was played was stressful from the minute that the ball was tipped. And I don't know if you can necessarily say the same thing about Villanova, North Carolina. The ending was iconic. The fact that it was for a national title meant that there was more on the line. But I think that with the added pressure of playing for an undefeated season, combined with everything else that was going into this game, it's just, I don't know if there's a better one. I honestly cannot think of.
Like Ryan Monroe just said, it reminded me of the Kentucky-Carolina game with the Luke May shot. All of this is true. All of this is true. The one thing, again, in the building was, I don't think at the time we realized it. I think it took some time to be able to reflect on the game itself because, again, it didn't have that emotion in the building. There was no air in the building. So I think, again, that's the biggest differentiator. The game itself was every bit as good as Villanova, Carolina. Every bit as good as Kentucky, Carolina. Maybe better. But it lacked that one element that all those other games had, which was the crowd going bananas throughout. And then the eruption at the end of the game, the oohs, the ahs, all of it. We didn't have any of that in the building. It was just so surreal because of that, right? It was such a great game, but like I'm looking at Borzello next to me, and that's all you're really looking at. The media people next to you, You're watching Jalen Suggs and his teammates celebrate, but they're not really celebrating with anybody.
Well, all right. So just be honest. The biggest reason you didn't think it was one of the best games you've ever seen is because you had to sit next to Barzella to watch.
That was bad. That was not good.
That will bring